Hey chat, this is a fairly late stream for me. We are not going to be doing anything too energizing. We are just going to be reading some storybooks. Oh, sorry, I accidentally hit you guys. Here in my hands, I have Grimm's Fairy Tales. I have the Grimm Brothers Fairy Tales book. We may be going through quite a few books, but I'm going to start off from the beginning, which in the Grimm's Brothers Fairy Tale, we get the first page. Let's go to the first page. Let's go to the first story. Where is the first story? Okay. Grimm's Fairy Tales. The first story, The Frog Prince. In the olden time, when wishing was having, there lived a king whose daughters were all beautiful. But the youngest was so exceedingly beautiful that the sun himself, although he saw her very often, was surprised whenever she came out to the sunshine. Near the castle of this king lay a large and gloomy forest, and in the midst stood an old lime tree, beneath whose branches flowed a tranquil brook. Whenever it was very hot, the king's youngest daughter ran off into this wood, and sat down on the bank of the cool stream, and when she felt dull, would often divert herself by throwing a golden ball up in the air and catching it, and this was her favorite amusement. Now one day it so happened that this golden ball, when the king's daughter threw it into the air, did not fall down into her hand, but on the grass, and then it rolled past her into a little fountain. The king's daughter followed the ball with her eyes, but it disappeared beneath the water, which was so deep that no one could see to the bottom. Then she began to lament, and to cry louder and louder, and as she cried a voice called out, "Why weepest thou, O king's daughter? Thy tears would melt even a stone to pity." And she looked around to the spot whence the voice came, and saw a frog stretching his thick ugly head out of the water. "Ah, you old water paddler," said she, "was it you that spoke? I am weeping for my golden ball, which has slipped away from me into the water." "Be quiet, and do not cry," answered the frog. "I can give thee good advice, but what wilt thou give me if I fetch thy plaything up again?" "What will you have, dear frog?" said she. "My dresses, my pearls and jewels, or the golden crown which I wear?" The frog answered, "Dresses or jewels or golden crowns are not for me, but if thou wilt love me, and let me be thy companion and playfellow, and sit at thy table and eat from thy little golden plate, and drink out of thy cup, and sleep in thy little bed, if thou wilt promise me all these, then will I dive down and fetch up thy golden ball." "Oh, I will promise you all," said she, "if you will only get me my ball." But she thought to herself, "What is the silly frog chatting about? Let him remain in the water with his equals. He cannot mix in society." But the frog, as soon as he had received her promise, drew his head under the water and dived down. Presently he swam up again with the ball in his mouth and threw it on the grass. The king's daughter was full of joy when she again saw her beautiful plaything, and taking it up she ran off immediately. "Stop, stop!" cried the frog. "Take me with thee. I cannot run as thou canst." But all his croaking was useless. Although it was loud enough, the king's daughter did not hear it, but hastening home, soon forgot the poor frog, who was obliged to leap back into the fountain. The next day, when the king's daughter was sitting at table with her father and all his courtiers, and was eating from her own little golden plate, something was heard coming up the marble stairs. Splish, splash, splish, splash. And when it arrived at the top, it knocked at the door, and a voice said, "Open the door, thou youngest daughter of the king." So she rose and went to the door. She perceived the frog before her. Then she shut the door with great vehemence and sat down at the table, looking very pale. But the king perceived that her heart was beating violently, and asked her whether it was a giant who had come to fetch her away, who stood at the door. "Oh no," answered she, "it is no giant, but an ugly frog." "What does the frog want with you?" said the king. "Oh, dear father, when I was sitting yesterday playing by the brook, my golden ball fell into the water, and this frog fetched it up again, because I cried so much. But first I must tell you, he pressed me so much that I promised him that he should be my companion. I never thought that he would come out of the water, but somehow he has jumped out, and now he wants to come in here." At that moment there was another knock, and a voice said, "King's daughter youngest, open the door. Hast thou forgotten thy promise made by the banks of the streamlet, beneath the beech shade? King's daughter youngest, open the door." I'm going to take a moment so I can take a sip of the tea I made. Gonna stir in the honey. This is some ASMR for you guys. I've made myself some sleepy time tea to hopefully try and make myself sleepy enough to where I can go to sleep. So, plus with the tea, I'm going to be able to talk for longer, as it's going to help my throat. Then the king said, "What you have promised that you must perform, go and let him in." So the king's daughter went and opened the door, and the frog hopped in after her, right up to her chair. And as soon as she was seated, the frog said, "Take me up." But she hesitated so long that at last the king ordered her to obey, and as soon as the frog sat on the chair, he jumped up on the table and said, "Now push thy plate near me, that we may eat together." And she did so, but as everyone saw, very unwillingly. The frog seemed to relish his dinner much, but every bit that the king's daughter ate nearly choked her, till at last the frog said, I have satisfied my hunger, and feel very tired. Wilt thou carry me upstairs into thy chamber, and make thy bed ready that we may sleep together?" At this speech the king's daughter began to cry, for she was afraid of the cold frog, and dared not touch him, and besides, he actually wanted to sleep in her own beautiful clean bed. But her tears only made the king very angry, and he said he despised, hold on, "He who helped you in the time of your trouble must not now be despised." So she took the frog up with two fingers. So she took the frog up with 2 fingers, and put him in a corner of her chamber. But as she lay in her bed, he crept up to it and said, "I am so very tired that I shall sleep well. Do take me up, or I will tell thy father." This speech put the king's daughter in a terrible passion, and catching the frog up, She threw him with all her strength against the wall, saying, "Now will you be quiet, you ugly frog?" But as he fell, he was changed from a frog into a handsome prince with beautiful eyes, who after a little while became, with her father's consent, her dear companion and betrothed. Then he told her how he had been transformed to an evil witch, and that no one but herself would have had the power to take him out of the fountain, and that on the morrow they would go together into his own kingdom. Then they went to sleep. The next morning, as soon as the sun rose, a carriage, drawn by 8 white horses with ostrich feathers on their heads and golden bridles, drove up to the door of the palace, and behind the carriage stood the trusty Henry, the servant of the young prince. When his master was changed into a frog, trusty Henry had grieved so much that he had bound 3 iron bands around his heart, for fear it would break with grief and sorrow. But now that the carriage was ready to carry the young prince to his own country, the faithful Henry helped in the bridegroom and placed himself in the seat behind, full of joy at his master's release. They had not proceeded far when the prince heard a crack as if something had broken behind the carriage. So he put his head out of the window and asked Henry what was broken. And Henry answered, "It was not the carriage, my master, but a band which I bound around my heart when it was in such grief, because you were changed into a frog." Twice afterwards on the journey there was the same noise, and each time the prince thought that it was some part of the carriage that had given way, but it was only the breaking of the bands which bound the heart of the trusty Henry, who was now free and happy. We're going to take a break real quick, so my voice doesn't give out. Oops, sorry. And then we're going to go on to A Tale of One Who Traveled to learn what shivering meant. This one is a long one, so. A father had 2 sons, the elder of whom was forward and clever enough to do almost anything, but the younger was so stupid that he could learn nothing. And when the people saw him, they said, "Will thy father still keep thee as a burden to him?" So if anything was to be done, the elder had at all times to do it, but sometimes the father would call him to fetch something in the dead of night, and perhaps the way led through the churchyard, or by a dismal place. And then he used to answer, "No, father, I cannot go there, I am afraid." For he was a coward. Or sometimes of an evening tales were told by the fireside which made one shudder, and the listeners exclaimed, "Oh, it makes us shiver." In a corner, meanwhile, sat the younger son listening, but he could not comprehend what was said, and he thought, "They say continually, 'Oh, it makes us shiver, it makes us shiver.' But perhaps shivering is an art which I cannot comprehend." One day, however, his father said to him, "Do you hear, you there in the corner? You are growing stout and big. You must learn some trade to get your living by. Do you see how your brother works? But as for you, you are not worth malt and hops." "Ah, father," answered he, "I would willingly learn something. What shall I begin? I want to know what shivering means, for of that I can understand nothing." The elder brother laughed when he heard this speech, and thought to himself, "Ah, my brother is such a simpleton that he cannot earn his own living. He who would be a woodcutter must stoop betimes." But the father sighed and said, "What shivering means you may learn soon enough, but you will never get your bread by that." Soon after, the parish sexton came in for a gossip. So the father told him his troubles, and how that his younger son was such a simpleton that he knew nothing, and could learn nothing. Just fancy when I asked him how he intended to earn his bread, he desired to learn what shivering meant. Oh, if that be all, answered the sexton. He can learn that soon enough with me. Just send him to my place and I will soon teach him. The father was very glad because he thought that it would do the boy good. So the sexton took him home to ring the bells. About 2 days afterwards, he called him up at midnight to go into the church tower to toll the bell. You shall soon learn what shivering means, thought the sexton, and getting up he went out. As soon as the boy reached the belfry and turned himself around to seize the rope, he saw upon the stairs near the sounding hole a white figure. Who's there? He called out. But the figure gave no answer, and neither stirred nor spoke. Answer, said the boy, or make haste off. You have no business here tonight. But the sexton did not stir, so that the boy might think that it was a ghost. The boy called out a second time, What are you doing here? Speak. If you are an honest fellow, or else I will throw you downstairs. The sexton said to himself, That is not a bad thought, but he remained quiet, as if he were a stone. Then the boy called out for the third time, but it produced no effect. So making a spring, he threw the ghost down the stairs, so that it rolled 10 steps and then lay motionless in a corner. Thereupon he rang the bell, and then going home he lay down without saying a word, and fell fast asleep. The sexton's wife waited some time for her husband, but he did not come. So at last she became anxious, woke the boy and asked him if he knew where her husband was, who had gone before him to the tower. No, answered the boy, but there was someone standing on the steps who would not give any answer nor go away. So I took him for a thief and threw him downstairs. Go now and see where he is. Perhaps it may be he, but I should be sorry for it. The wife ran off and found her husband lying in a corner, groaning, with one of his ribs broken. She took him up and ran with loud outcries to the boy's father and told him, Your son has brought a great misfortune on us. He has thrown my husband down and broken his bones. Take the good-for-nothing fellow from our house. The terrified father came in haste and scolded the boy. What do these wicked tricks mean? They will only bring misfortune upon you, father, answered the lad. Hear me. I am quite innocent. He stood there at midnight like one who had done some evil. I did not know who it was, and cried 3 times, Speak or be off. Ah, said the father, everything goes badly with you. Get out of my sight. I do not wish to see you again. Yes, father, willingly. Wait, but one day then will I go out and learn what shivering means. I now understand one business which will support me. Learn what you will, replied the father. All is the same to me. Here are $50. Go forth with them into the world, and tell no man whence you came, or who your father is, for I am ashamed of you. Yes, father, as you wish. If you desire nothing else, I shall esteem that very lightly. As soon as day broke, the youth put his $50 into a knapsack, and went out upon the high road, saying continually, Oh, if I could but shiver. Presently a man came up, who heard the boy talking to himself, and as they were just passing the place where the gallows stood, the man said, Do you see? There is a tree where 7 fellows have married the hempen maid. And now swing and fro. Sit yourself down there and wait till midnight, and then you won't know what it is to shiver. Oh, if that be all, answered the boy, I can very easily do that. But if I learn so speedily what shivering is, then you shall have my $50. If you come again in the morning. Then the boy went to the gallows, sat down, and waited for evening. As he felt cold, he made a fire. But about midnight the wind blew so sharp that, in spite of the fire, he could not keep himself warm. The wind blew the bodies against one another, so that they swung backwards and forwards. And he thought, if I am cold here below by the fire, how must they freeze and tremble above? So his compassion was excited, and contriving a ladder he mounted, and unloosening them one after another, he brought them down all 7. Then he poked and blew the fire, and sat them around that they might warm themselves. But as they sat still without moving, their clothing caught fire. So he said, "Take care of yourselves, or I'll hang all of you up again." The dead heard not, and silently allowed their rags to burn. This made him so angry that he said, "If you will not hear, I cannot help you, but I will not burn with you." So he hung them up again in a row, and sitting down by the fire, he soon went to sleep. The next morning the man came, expecting to receive his $50, and asked, "Now do you know what shivering means?" "No," he answered. "How should I know? Those fellows up there have not opened their mouths, and are so stupid that they let the old rags on their bodies be burnt." Then the man saw that he should not carry away the $50 that day, so he went away saying, "I never met with such an one before." The boy also went on his way and began again to say, "Ah, if only I could shiver, if I could but shiver." A wagoner, walking behind, overheard him and asked, "Who are you?" "I do not know," answered the boy. The wagoner asked again, "What do you do here?" "I know not." "Who is your father?" "I dare not say." Whew. The voice is already kind of giving out. How many pages do we have left of this? Oh, this is a long one. You know what? We will stop that there. And we will come back to that soon. For right now, I want to give you guys some attention. Because you guys, my chat, my audience, have been so very kind to me, despite my inconsistency. So I thought maybe some little calming ASMR was was needed, because you guys have been with me through everything. So why not do some little ASMR? Now I can't exactly do some mic scratches because it doesn't get picked up unless I do, I think, this. But that's just raising the volume on the microphone. But I can do, hold on. I can get you guys closer. So hello. Feels weird to kind of have this more closer to my mouth, but we're just going to be talking, and I'm just going to be doing some ASMR and reading every once in a while I rest my voice and start to try to go to bed. So I'm just here to help you sleep. okay? Because this is just a nice little sleepy stream. So, um, you guys are amazing. You guys deserve love and light and all things nice. You guys are the best in the world. And despite whatever is happening right now, or whatever you are going through, you are the best. You are the best. You will make it out. You will make it out of whatever is happening. You will become the very best. And I'm so happy to have you here with me. I'm so happy you are here. And I am so happy. So happy. Well, I just realized I need to switch this to this. Catch me forgetting to switch from starting soon to just chatting. Oops. But you guys are my little rosebuds, my little rose garden. And I love you guys endlessly. Now, one should say that as much as I love you guys, I want you guys to love yourself. I want you guys to take care of yourself. So that means take your meds, drink water, do whatever that makes you happy, that isn't self-destructive. Get some therapy if you have to. And do whatever to get yourself and make yourself happy. I am just here to help along the way. I am just here to give you some light in the dark, because eventually you won't need me and you will have a happy life. But I love that you guys, for those who do watch me, stick around and watch me and let me entertain you with my silly little autistic brain. Even though I'm still trying to figure out what I want to be. I'm glad you are here with me. Now, it does come to say, yes, I may not be a gaming streamer, or I may not do that much gaming, and I just do a lot of chatting. That's because I find it hard to commentate when I game, because when I game, I go silent, and I just focus on gaming, so it's hard for me to commentate on that when I stream. I find it much easier to just do chatting streams, to just talk to you guys directly, to just let myself talk to you as if we were talking one-on-one. Now, I may not always do just chatting streams, or do like gaming streams, because I want to try to broaden like my streaming and like content creation whenever I get better set up and get like better equipment and am able to do that. But it won't change the fact that I have a hard time trying to like game while also talking, because I just go silent, and that's not really good commentary. But honestly, I can just do a stream where I just rant. I just talk for hours on end for people to put on in the background so that they can like fall asleep to it, or so that they can honestly just have it in the background where they're doing like work or school or just like streaming, and just like having me in just like a little tab off to the side. Because I have so many topics I just want to rant about, but I haven't had the chance to. Mainly because some of them uh, may get me hit with uh, terms of service on YouTube. If I need to turn this down. I need to turn that down because I have the chat pulled up on my phone in case I miss any messages. So, but if you guys want me to just rant my little heart out, tell you all that I've been kind of just learning about, I can actually do that. And I can, like, because there's one thing that I know quite a bit about, which is stuff like witchcraft and stuff like crystals. And I know quite a lot about space and history and like stuff like Greek history, like Greek mythology, and all that. Because I love mythology, I love folklore, and I love mythology. But I could also just rant to you about like movies if you want. Anything you want me to rant to you about, I can do it. It would just be if you're willing to listen. Because the one thing we want, at least I want, is if you're willing to listen, then I'll talk. If you're willing to put up with my chatterbox mouth, I will talk. I will talk for hours on end for you. May I probably ruin my voice? Yes, but I will strengthen my voice box through the process. For fud for like fuck's sake, I can even probably just go on like hour rants about just whatever we want. I can probably even do karaoke streams on Twitch, because I do have a Twitch. You can catch me over there sometimes. I could probably even do like karaoke streams and sing songs. And I know with like the craze of Epic the Musical, I could probably do karaoke to some of those songs. Or some other popular songs that I know. We will just have to see. We will just have to see if you guys would like that. I'm just going to change the title because I realized I'm not exactly telling bedtime stories at the moment. I'm just ranting. There we go. Now you'll need to refresh your YouTube. But that's okay. Hmm. I kind of collectively just trying to put each other to sleep at the moment. It has been a little over 30 minutes now that I've been live. So, and I'm already kind of starting to feel the tea kicking in. But we press on until I'm too tired to stream. Plus, what do you guys want me to do? Because honestly, I was thinking that I could sing some lullabies to you guys if you want. Or we could end stream here, like just a little 30-minute stream. Nothing too big. Yeah, just a little 30-minute stream if you guys want that you can come back to. But if so, then I will end stream now. Have a good night, chat. Have a good night, my little rosebuds.